Imagine for a moment. It's the dead of winter, temperatures plummeting below -30 degrees F, and you're living nowhere near a cozy fireplace or a roaring central heating system, but rather in a dense, ruthless Scandinavian winter where blizzards howl like wolves and frost bites every inch of exposed skin. Now, picture you're a Viking, and your entire survival depends on staying warm inside a wooden longhouse that's cold enough to freeze breath midair. No electric heaters, no fancy insulation, no instant access to hot showers. So, how on earth did these fierce and legendary warriors manage to heat their homes for free, surviving brutal cold with nothing but the natural resources around them? And a little bit of genius. That question alone unlocks one of the coolest stories of ancient survival that might just change the way you think about heating your home today. Now here's something that might boggle your modern mind. These Vikings weren't just huddling next to fires or piling on extra blankets. They had ingenious, almost bizarre methods for capturing and preserving heat that made their homes feel warmer than a 1,000-watt electric heater despite the piercing cold outside. Think about it. These techniques evolved over centuries in some of the most unforgiving climates on Earth, where failure meant frostbite or worse. It's like discovering a medieval version of high-tech thermal gear we use today, but crafted from nothing more than wood, animal fat, and a deep understanding of nature's own design. So, if you're ready to dive into 7 of the most genius Viking hacks to heat your home for free, buckle up. Because what you're about to hear could warm your spirit even before it warms your room. Let's start with what might be the strangest Viking survival trick you've never heard of, the legendary smoke curtain. Imagine walking into a longhouse, not filled with choking black smoke or ashes, but a cloud of warm, thinly veiled mist hanging just below the ceiling, gently radiating heat, without stinging your eyes or setting your hair on fire. Vikings mastered this by deliberately designing their roofs and chimneys to trap smoke right at the top of the room, creating a thermal blanket of hot gases that slowly leaked through small gaps instead of rushing right out. The smoke wasn't just a byproduct to vent, it was reclaimed heat, like nature's version of a slow cooker, somehow heating the entire space from above. This curtain of warmth could raise indoor temperatures by 10 to 15 degrees F just by clever airflow management. It was the ancient equivalent of a modern heat recovery ventilator system, recycling heat instead of wasting it. But you might wonder, isn't smoke toxic? Here's the trick. Vikings controlled the burn so carefully, with specific low-oxygen fires burning wet wood and peat, that the smoke contained fewer harmful gases and more warm moisture. This not only helped humidify dry winter air, but also created a cozy, slightly scented atmosphere that masked the harsh smells of a busy Viking household. Imagine sitting under this smoke curtain, feeling the gentle warmth wrap around you as you tell stories or tend to your crops, all while outside. It's a snowstorm rage fest. And because this smoke lingered near the rafters, the lower parts of the house stayed clearer and breathable, keeping the living area safer while maximizing heat retention. It's a technique that flies in the face of our modern urge to shove smoke out of every crack. But in the Viking world, some smoke was a friend, not a foe. This method of heat recycling is surprisingly energy efficient and way cooler than just lighting a fire and hoping for the best. But of course, all that warmth from the smoke curtain would vanish if the Vikings didn't also tackle another chilly challenge: sealing their homes against the bitter cold that tries to sneak in through cracks and crevices like invisible frost ninjas. Enter their second genius hack: using moss and animal fur as ultra-effective natural insulation. It might sound simple, but these materials turned their wooden houses into insulated cocoons that rival some modern-day eco-friendly insulations. Here's the secret science behind it. Moss is naturally porous and can hold up to 20 times its weight in water, which means it acts like a sponge. When placed between wooden planks or stuffed into gaps, it traps air and moisture to create a layer that keeps cold out and warmth in, almost like the medieval version of bubble wrap for your walls. Add to that the dense, oily fur of animals like reindeer or seals, and you have a finishing touch that blocks drafts and retains body heat, thanks to the furs. Microscopic scales that repel water and trap air pockets, similar to how modern Gore-Tex works today. The Vikings harvested these fur pelts not just for clothing, but also layered them inside walls and underfloor areas for extra warmth. This created a double defense. Moss stopped the wind, and fur stopped the chill, combining to keep indoor temperatures surprisingly steady, even when the mercury dropped below -40 degrees F outside. When you think about it, their use of these natural materials was a zero-cost thermal upgrade, sourced straight from the land and animals around them, perfectly adapted to the harsh environment. But it didn't stop with walls and roofs. Vikings were masters of what modern science calls thermal mass, the ability of materials to absorb, store, and slowly release heat over time. And they put this knowledge to work in their floors. Imagine walking barefoot on a stone or packed earth floor that's warm, despite the freezing air outside. How? By strategically heating the floor itself with cleverly placed hearths, and using dense materials that soak up fire heat during the day and radiate it back at night. Think of it as an ancient version of those heated floor systems you see in luxury homes, but entirely natural and totally free. The hearth fires weren't just set in the middle of the room. Instead, Vikings constructed subterranean flues, channels beneath the floors, that carried warm air and smoke from the fire around the base of the house. This method heated the floor stones from below, turning the entire surface into a slow-release heat battery. By evening, the stone floor could be a toasty 80 degrees F, keeping feet warm even when the air temperature hovered well below freezing. This system, surprisingly, wasn't limited to personal comfort. It helped combat the nasty problem of ground frost seeping inside, which could damage stored food and weaken wood structures. The thermal mass heated floor was essentially a natural climate control system, minimizing ice buildup indoors, much like modern radiant heating, only without bills, wires, or power cords. Now, while floors, walls, and ceilings were all part of the heating equation, Vikings also understood the value of maximizing body heat itself to warm the home, leading to their ingenious use of communal living. Picture this: a longhouse packed with family, friends, livestock, and even sled dogs, all huddled together on benches and platforms. The combined body heat from dozens of warm-blooded beings could raise the temperature of a room by several degrees, turning what might have been an icy cavern into a gentle, steady warmth. We're talking about a thermal powerhouse literally built on human and animal presence. Think of it as a social heater running on hugs, breaths, and heartbeats. Back in the day, this was more than just efficient, it was necessary. Vikings often slept and socialized in groups, using furs and shared body heat to stay warm enough through the coldest nights. Plus, livestock weren't just outside freezing. The animals were kept in attached shelters or even inside the longhouse in winter, their body heat radiating into shared living spaces in a symbiotic warmth exchange. It's an ancient form of cohabitation, heating that modern tiny houses or eco-communities might find inspiring. Instead of relying on machines, Vikings simply harnessed natural warmth where it was abundant. Yet even with smoke curtains, insulation, heated floors, and group warmth, the Vikings faced one big obstacle: that bone-chilling cold creeping in from the cold, damp ground beneath them. Sleeping close to the floor meant losing precious heat straight into the frozen earth. So, how did they solve this? By crafting elevated sleeping platforms, effectively their version of a medieval bunk bed 30 inches off the floor, made from wood and layered with thick furs and moss padding. This wasn't just comfort, it was genius thermal engineering. Raising the sleeping area reduced direct contact with the cold floor, trapping warmer air around sleeping bodies. The moss and fur layers underneath acted like ancient hot water bottles, absorbing body heat and radiating it back all night long. Sleep researchers today agree that keeping feet and core warm is critical for deep rest, and Vikings nailed it with these simple elevated beds. Imagine climbing up onto your fluffy moss and fur bed as the fire dies down and the smoke curtain settles. A safe, snug nest that feels 20 degrees warmer than the frozen room below. This simple elevation made a huge difference in comfort and survival chances during long winters that could last up to 6 months. But Vikings' thermal savvy extended even beyond their homes. To prepare for winter, they engineered their diets to fuel body heat efficiently, which in turn helped them stay warm indoors. They ate a rich, fatty diet, up to 70–75% fat from fish, meat, and dairy, that gave their bodies the fuel to generate heat continually, a practice supported by modern science as an effective way to maintain core temperature. Think of it like natural internal heating. These diets were caloric powerhouses, turning food into warmth with impressive efficiency, even on the coldest days. And because their food was salted, smoked, or dried for long storage, Vikings had a reliable supply of nutrition that could keep their metabolic fires burning all winter long. No matter how cold the outside, their bodies became walking, breathing heaters, supporting the warmth of the home from the inside out. So far, we've explored the smoke curtain trick, natural insulation with moss and fur, radiant heated floors, communal body heat, elevated sleeping platforms, and metabolism-boosting diets as critical parts of Viking winter warmth. But even with all these smart adaptations, we haven't yet uncovered their secret weapon against the bitter Arctic cold, one that's surprisingly simple yet remarkably effective. And trust me, you won't want to miss it, because it just might inspire a whole new way to think about heating your own space, for free, just like the Vikings. We'll pick up right there next. So hang tight, keep cozy, and get ready to uncover the final genius Viking heat hack that's about to blow your modern heating methods out of the fjord. Alright, so here's where the Vikings absolutely flipped the script on winter survival with their final genius heat hack. A technique so surprisingly simple yet wildly effective that it blew up their entire longhouse heating game. Imagine this: the bitter Arctic cold snarling outside, ice crusting over everything. And inside, the Vikings had this wild trick called thermal layering of doors and walls, using extra animal hides and thick wooden shutters. It might sound straightforward, but the way they combined layers upon layers of natural materials to trap air pockets created insulation that was nearly as effective as a modern double-pane window, only warmer, more breathable, and completely free. They nailed sealing every possible leak with overlapping animal hides, tightly fastened wooden boards, and layers of moss padding around door frames, effectively creating an airtight barrier that blocked out drafts so well that indoor temperatures could easily be 20 degrees F higher than outside. This medieval double glazing wasn't just about stopping cold air. It actually trapped the heat already inside so efficiently that the longhouse basically acted like a giant thermos bottle, holding warmth all day and night. Think about catching a whiff of that deep, rich scent of smoked reindeer first sealing your door, while the wind howls outside like a pack of wolves. That kind of airlock effect is basically the grandfather of all modern weather stripping. But instead of synthetic rubber seals, Vikings used moss, fur, and perfectly engineered wooden frameworks. And since these materials were breathable, the air stayed fresh inside, preventing mold and moisture buildup. No plastic bags or sticky tape necessary. But all that sealing would have suffocated a room if it wasn't for another trick. They built smart venting holes covered with hide flaps or movable shutters that could be opened just enough to let stale air out without pouring in icy drafts. This precise airflow control kept the air quality high and the warmth locked in tight, making it comfortable to breathe and nearly impossible for cold air to sneak in unnoticed. So this was not just weatherproofing. It was an ancient HVAC system powered by nothing but wood, moss, and animal skins. It's like the Vikings invented their own thermal Ziploc bags for their homes, preserving precious heat without spending a single coin or using any fuel beyond what their fires gave off naturally. And that brings us full circle, because the whole reason these sealing layers worked so well was that the Vikings never let their fires burn out completely. They mastered the art of simmering fires, small, long-lasting embers stoked slowly throughout the day and night, instead of roaring bonfires that burned themselves out quickly. These embers radiated consistent, gentle heat that blended perfectly with their smoke curtains and heated floors, maintaining a stable temperature of around 65 to 70 degrees F inside the longhouse, even when the frost outside was biting at minus 40 degrees F or lower. It was an ancient form of controlled combustion, scientifically proven to release the most heat with the least smoke and fuel consumption. And because the embers were so low maintenance, Vikings could focus on survival, hunting, and farming without constantly tending blazing hearths. Imagine the cozy amber glow that lit the longhouse, casting dancing shadows on the wooden walls, while warmth seeped out from the glowing embers below your feet. A scene so tranquil, yet vital. It's like having a 24/7, energy-efficient heater powered entirely by wood scraps and peat moss. But here's the real kicker. The reason all these separate Viking heating hacks formed such a rock-solid system wasn't just because of materials or construction techniques. It was because of how they integrated every element of their environment into a single, cohesive strategy for warmth and survival. They lived literally in harmony with nature's rhythms, gathering wood and peat thoughtfully to fuel long-lasting embers, harvesting moss and fir carefully to insulate without stripping the land bare, arranging their homes to maximize solar gain during the brief daylight hours, and sharing body heat inside with community and animals alike. Every detail of the Viking home was tuned like a finely crafted instrument, designed to withstand winters that would kill anyone unprepared. This was a toolkit forged by centuries of trial, error, and adaptation, a true testament to their resourcefulness in an era before thermometers and electric blankets. Now, what if I told you that some of these ancient Viking tricks aren't just historical curiosities, but could actually inspire how we heat our homes today? Without pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere or inflating energy bills. Take the idea of controlled simmering fires paired with smart air circulation. It's essentially the blueprint for passive heating systems gaining popularity in sustainable architecture right now. Or the insulation power of moss and fir, which could inform new biodegradable building materials that breathe and regulate humidity naturally. Even their airtight sealing methods with hides and wooden shutters resonate with modern eco-conscious designs that favor natural, renewable resources over plastics and synthetics. And let's not forget the communal warmth trick. Living spaces designed for social connection that save energy not just through technology, but through people coming together. The Vikings were early pioneers of what today's experts call thermal efficiency, and their success emphasized an age-old truth. Sometimes the best solutions come from deep respect for natural materials and the ingenious ways of thinking outside the box. So, as the snow falls relentlessly outside, and you think of those fierce warriors braving winter storms with nothing but wooden walls and animal pelts, remember this. They weren't just getting lucky with a fire here and a blanket there. They created a fully integrated habitat that burned free energy, maximized retained warmth, and transformed brutal frost into livable comfort. Every smoldering ember, every moss-backed crevice, every carefully layered hide wasn't just about heat. It was about survival, community, and legacy. It was about protecting loved ones from the merciless cold, thriving in a landscape that demanded innovation and persistence. The Vikings didn't just endure winter, they mastered it. And here's the takeaway for you, sitting in the warmth of your home today. Great ideas for comfort and sustainability are all around us, lost in the wisdom of those who came before. By embracing that same spirit of creativity and connection with the natural world, maybe we can heat our homes more efficiently, live more lightly, and face our own challenges with that same fiery Viking resolve. So next time you crank your thermostat, pause for a moment and imagine the smoky warmth of a Viking longhouse, the scent of moss and reindeer fur warming every corner, the gentle heat radiating from the stone floor beneath your feet, and the glow of embers resisting the cold outside. Knowledge like this isn't just history. It's a map showing us how human ingenuity has always been the real fire that keeps us alive. And who knows, maybe the next great heating revolution is right under our noses, hidden in the past, waiting to be rekindled. Stay warm, stay curious, and may the spirit of the Vikings inspire you to heat your home smarter, cleaner, and totally for free.